Hello, we are at day 29 of Inktober Tangles Challenge 2025, and I'm so happy and grateful to you for spending these days with me or this month with me, and for reaching the day when we finally start working on the last tile. So the last letter and the last 3 tangles this time. 3 tangles, and I took a peek that are more or less all very impactful, almost like focal tangles. I wish there was a better mix. I wish one of them was a part of the last tile, but it is what it is, and we are playing with those tangles. I started with the 4 dots, connected the dots to form a border, and you can maybe draw a string. I keep drawing the string, and more or less I don't use it at all. So I'm kind of laughing at myself. And it's your choice, actually, whether you want to add a string or not, whether you want to use it or not. I'm going to start with a tangle number 29. It's Poke Heart by Henriette Robben. I think I will use this upper left section of the tile to draw it, starting with these 2 kind of curved lines. It can be either lazy S or maybe a C curve that finally, when you draw these tethered auras, form 2 leaf shapes, I would say. And then you draw a top part of the heart shape. And then you can choose whether you want to round this to create an illusion that this whole shape goes around the heart, or maybe add a rounding, or maybe both. For me, usually adding the roundings is inevitable. And now you can start drawing more of these. I will add one right here, kind of use the curve that's already here. And obviously they don't have to be the same size, shape. They won't be the same shape. You can create different sizes. You can change the shape of the heart. I know that many people struggle with drawing heart shapes. For me, it comes easy. It always have. But if you're one of those who struggle more with it, just ease into it, relax. It doesn't really matter if it's a beautiful heart. Any kind of heart will do. There are no mistakes. You can see how this shape, because I'm kind of trying to use the curves that I already have to take off from them. This is a different shape of this bottom leaf part, which is totally okay. I'm thinking about maybe adding a few more. I'm not sure how many. Let me see. I will squeeze one in here, and I will just pretend that it hides below or underneath the ones that are already here, which is not always easy. I don't know if you have the same impression. Sometimes drawing these shapes that are kind of half hidden, it can be tricky depending on what the shapes look like, but for me it's not always an easy thing to do. Maybe just one more here, and this one will climb quite high over the border, but I never add the border in order to make use of it and retrace it later in its entirety. It's here more as a guideline, and then more often than not, I choose to draw over the border. And I think this might be it, because it's so... I have these kind of weird shapes between these. I might add some tipple as a filler, or orbs, whatever you want to call them, and feel free not to add them. In your case, it's just here as an enhancer. And I know I started with the borders, with the roundings, I'm sorry, between the shapes already, but that lends itself nicely to adding some orbs as well. Only if you want to. I will kind of make it cohesive by adding the orbs, and I will also do it right here in the corner, and then probably I will not draw the border. I will just leave these orbs kind of like an irregular border in this corner. There it is. And that's the first tangle. It's tangled already. So now, of course, I want to shade and highlight it. So I will basically start the shading by adding some color. So sometimes I use color purely for the coloring purpose. Sometimes I use it as an enhancer, meaning I use it as a shade, or to start the shading process, or even to finish the shading process. Now this water brush of mine is releasing quite a lot of water, so I need to make sure that I wait for it to dry before I add another layer, which will probably be graphite over it, which means that now my next step should be something that will not be in touch with this area that is still either wet or damp, and it will take a while for it to dry. So now I will take my Jelly Roll 10. I see that I have a small space here. And now that I'm looking at it, I think that I will add color also to these orbs between, because it will create some difference between my heart shapes, especially these little parts where I added a flap or overlap, which is kind of, oops, I just colored one. Oops, I didn't want to do that, but it is what it is, right? That's what I wanted to avoid, because as I started to say with the roundings that I added these overlaps or flaps, these little parts here are kind of similar to these orbs. So I added color to one of them, but it's fine. You know that there are no mistakes, and this is just another opportunity to prove it. I will just keep on working on this as if nothing had happened. So what I'm doing right now is adding some white shiniest highlight on the top of these leaf shapes in the front. This is not what I typically do. In my classes, I usually finish the highlighting process by adding the shiniest highlights as the last step. However, there are no rules, and if there are any rules, they're here to be broken. So don't worry and just do whatever your creativity suggests you to do, and be playful and be explorative. Not sure this is the word. Anyway, be inquisitive. And you know, when you ask yourself, well, is it the right choice? There is only one way to find out, which is to try and see what happens. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm adding a little bit of shade. Is this the only heart that's kind of partially hiding behind the other? I think it is. And you could see that I added some shade on the bottom part of leaf shapes, and I will blend that now. So I'm kind of consistent with the way that I'm shading this. And then I will take the white pencil and I will add just a little bit of white to kind of make the transition from this very bright gel pen line towards the shaded part. And because the space is so narrow, there's not a lot of room to do this transition, so just a little bit. And I don't think that I need to blend that, because I was not too aggressive with the way that I use that white. A little bit more gel pen in this upper one, because I thought that it was kind of muted with the use of the white pencil and graphite pencil. And now I'm adding just some shade in this bottom part, very small tiny part, and I still have one of these that I colored blue by a mistake, by an oopsie. Well, it is what it is. I will add. I can't really take away that blue color, even if I go over it with the white gel pen, as you know, because it will pick up the pigment from below. I will leave this to dry, and then I will do some blending. Then I want to add white pencil to the top part of these heart shapes. And finally, and I'm really pushing hard here. It's, you know, you can't see that, but I assure you, if you want to have a really bright white trace on your paper, you want to really push it into the paper so that this white charcoal integrates with the fibers of the paper. And one more thing I want to do is to add a little bit of shade below my shapes, so it's over these orbs, and hopefully now my blue sections are dry. So I will also add a little bit of darkest shade to this part of the heart, of each heart, To be precise, I'm blending the shades that I applied. And you know, it might be almost done. Just a few dots to kind of act as shiniest highlights. Some of these orbs, some of them are shaded, as you know. And then let's see what's happening with this. I will just try to kind of blend it with a blending stump, and then it's better not to poke it too much because I might damage, although this new Renaissance paper is not really sensitive, so as sensitive as the old one was, but still I don't want to damage it. Now I'm using the white Prismacolor. I just grabbed it and I'm going over these white dots, which might be an interesting choice. I might have done that in a reverse order normally, which would make more sense because you basically mute the white gel pen or kind of blend it. It wasn't maybe even totally dry. And that is it. This looks kind of cute, like a heart bouquet. Let me add a little bit of shade to the letter, and I want my white pencil to be nicely sharpened. Let me try to make my tip a little bit sharper so that I can add some white highlight to the top part of the letter and maybe also to the left part. And of course, oops, this is a very soft tip of the blending stump, so it's not really as precise as I was expecting. A few shiniest highlights which will again pick up the blue pigment from the background, but it's fine. There is a little bit of a 3D effect in my letter now, which is what I wanted. And that's it for the day 29. I look forward to tomorrow. I hope you'll join me. Thank you for tangling with me, and I will see you. Bye.